Bright Lights now presents A Cellar of Entertainment. Bill Sellers, age 77, dramatist, actor, entertainer, has over the last 70 years appeared on stage, acted, announced on radio since its beginnings, appeared on television, and entertained the armed forces overseas during the First World War. He resides in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Behind him, many plays and accomplishments. I'm Lee Major, and when I met Bill Sellers, I found talent and a 70-year history of drama. You name it, stage, radio, TV. He is indeed a salesman for entertainment.
Bill, your years in drama and entertainment started when?
Well, right when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, you might say. I guess as a kid, you've seen these precocious youngsters that get up and give readings, recitations. Well, that's how I started out. And very sort of dramatic and gory recitations in those days, you know. Into the hall of whitewashed wards where the dead and the dying day lay. Somebody's darling was born one day. You know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Very dramatic. And then on from there to a boy soprano singing solos in the choirs and concert work, and then graduating to a heavier and better style of not readings, characterizations, musical monologues, on the style of Bransby Williams, and those that kind of work carried me through for a number of years, and earned me quite a few dollars and cents around the country.
This was in England, wasn't it?
Well, I started that in England, and I got my early training dramatically under two well-known people in the south of England, George Stone and Herman Solomon. Herman Solomon also, by the way, was a famous portrait artist. And and it was rather strenuous training because they didn't stand for any nonsense. And you had to learn the basics before you were allowed to speak a word. You had to work backstage first. Had to maybe work on sound effects or such like. And then you graduated after a long sort of apprenticeship. You graduated to a walk-on part. And then gradually a few lines. But always it was borne upon you, and has never left me, the fact that although you may only walk on, though you only may have 2 or 3 lines, if the author hadn't thought that that was necessary to the play, it wouldn't have been in there. And therefore you must give it the very best you had, whether it was 2 lines or 2 scenes. Every time I could get an opportunity to sort of sneak off and see a play, because of course when I was a youngster, you know, a good deal of theater wasn't considered too respectable, and it wasn't a respectable calling really to in the eyes of the majority of people. Mm-hmm. And so on the pretext of going somewhere else, I admit to a little deception. Every boy has, I think, had some idea in their head, and Mom and Dad didn't know all about it all the time. So I used to sneak off to the early tent shows. You know, these cheap tents, these big marquees, they used to set up in the courtyard, the backyard of a pub in the town of Poole, that was near where I was born, in the south coast of England. And they used to set up these tent shows in the coachyard at the back of the pub. And you sat on these hard seats like you do it when you go up the Midway, you know now. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And they put on real dramas, you know, The Ticket of Leave Man, The Octoroon, The House with the Red Shutters, The Mill on the Floss, and things like that. And changed the bill every couple of days. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of chances of seeing a lot of plays. And they had to talk. Now, there were no loudspeakers, of course, in those days, no microphones or anything of that sort. So the very first thing one had to learn to control was voice placement and projection, which was a darn good idea, because I think you'll find today that a good many of our new actors, they can't project worth a hoot. They have to have microphones, and which I think makes for an artificial interpretation often of the part. If you're conscious of some mechanical device, that draws away from your lifelike portraiture, I think. Mm-hmm. But with these plays, it was, I used to eat them up, sit there tense and excited, because these dramas, these gaslight dramas, were such that they depended for their success on the amount of hoots and boos the villain got, and the more he was hissed and booed, the more he was satisfied, the happier he was. While on the other hand, the hero or the heroine, they were judged by the amount of cheers and applause that they got. When the hero, for instance, would come out with some such dramatic line as, "He who touches a hair of yon grey head dies like a dog," well, that would bring down the house. And in the quieter parts of the plays, they still had to project, because girls or fellows were going up and down through the aisles selling oranges, you see. And many of these oranges didn't get eaten because the people grew so incensed at the villain that they went stageward.
Sort of tossed them right out the stage.
Absolutely. They really got carried away. The last thing I ever saw in tent shows was a vast improvement over that. You've heard of Chautauqua, and I saw the last Chautauqua that came to Winnipeg, and it was up on the old Sherburne Street, where the License Bureau is now for autos and stuff like, near the Blind Institute. That's where they pitched, and I saw a wonderful production there of Smiling Through. And I was agreeably surprised, because I had seen earlier, and before I came out here to Canada, I had seen the original production of it in London. And this Chautauqua production compared very favorably with the actual London production. There were some remarkable people going around in those tent shows, and many of the greatest stars in the world of theater started right on those crude stages. Mm-hmm. And then I came out here to Canada in 1913. And people have a wrong idea. A lot of people today seem to think that Winnipeg has only wakened up to be theater conscious and have theater in the last, say, decade or so. But that wasn't so. Why, Winnipeg was full of entertainment before I came. And when I came, I know that there was, in the way of vaudeville, the Strand Theatre on Main Street, the Bijou Theatre, which is now a billiard parlor, Dominion Theatre, there was vaudeville there. There was the Orpheum was running, and later on, the Pantages, which is now the Playhouse, was built as a vaudeville house. And you saw the cream of the talent there. Not long before I came over here, on the Hippodrome circuit in the Oak Country, I had seen Charlie Chaplin in Fred Carnell's Knockabout Comedians. And the first show I went to here in Winnipeg was at the Bijou, to see the vaudeville there. And lo and behold, here was Charlie Chaplin with Fred Carnell's Knockabout Comedians in the same skit, a night in a London Doss House or something of that sort. Mm-hmm. And A Night at the Opera was another one of his skits. Not a word spoken, all mime.
Mm-hmm. This would be on the number 1 circuit then, right?
Well, no, the number 1 circuit. You see, Charlie Chaplin wasn't even on the number 1 circuit here. Mm-hmm. But on the number 1 circuit was the Orpheum. And they were affiliated to the Dupree circuit in the Oak Country. Mm-hmm. And they had the tops from Europe and the States. I mean, you saw Jack Benny there. He's still only 39. And I saw him way back in 1913 and so from then on. W.C. Fields, when he had his juggling act, juggling with the cigar boxes, and his fake billiard table. The Marx Brothers, they were here. The Eddie Foy and his family were here. The Weavers, and Snozzle Durante.
So these were all great entertainers.
All great entertainers, the tops.
Yeah.